I wasn't going to make another video tonight. Tonight is still November the 1st, 2017. It's now 10:12 at night here in West Michigan. But I thought, hey, it's too early to go to bed. I'm downloading the video I made earlier. And I want to get these books that I got at a local thrift store down in the lower level so I can get them on my site. Yeah, this afternoon I did some yard work. It was dry out, so I mowed the lawn, the front lawn, and raked leaves. Got that done because our front yard was just covered with leaves from. If you don't live in Holland, Michigan, it's known as Tree City. There are trees everywhere. It's one thing I like about Holland. There's just trees everywhere. Now we have a lot of trees. Every street has lined with trees. We have trees in our backyard. Our neighbors have trees. They're not. Some are big, some are small. But so you always have to deal with leaves in the autumn season, which is fine. Okay? So I did that, and then when I came in the house, I said, well, I might as well I hadn't visited one of the local thrift stores this week. Well, even last week, I don't remember even going last week. So I went to a local thrift store, just a couple blocks from where we live. And I'm just going to show you the books that I got. They had like buy two, you get one free. So some of these books I got free. Altogether, I paid $5 for these books. 50 cents hardback, a quarter paperback. This is what I got at Bibles for Mexico. The first used book I got for a quarter is by Robert Graves, Goodbye to All That. It's an autobiography. It says that Robert Graves' marvelously candid self-portrait of his childhood and his experience as a young officer in the First World War. Graves entered the war in 1914, and he describes in vivid and raw detail the life in the trenches. The dehumanizing horrors he witnessed left him shell-shocked and haunted him throughout his long life. In Goodbye to All That, he also gives a fascinating portrayal of his unhappy school days at Charterhouse. I hear some ghosts in the house. And his encounters with fellow writers and poets, and his increasingly embittered marriage to Nancy Nicholson before he finally went abroad in 1929, vowing never to make England my home again. I think he moved to Italy and lived there the rest of his life. So I got that. I already had a copy of this, but I like the cover because it has a scene from the First World War. And it was published in England, and it was only $1. It wasn't $1, it was 25 cents. And then I got this biography of Einstein, Life and Times, by Ronald W. Clark. I already have this, but I wasn't really sure. And I collect books on Einstein, biographies, anything doing with Einstein, his life. Got it for a quarter. I'll take it to the Book Nook Friday. Ronald, it says in the back here about Einstein, Life and Times by Ronald W. Clark. Ronald W. Clark's definitive biography of Einstein, the Promethean figure of our age, goes beyond the phenomenal intellect to reveal the human side of the legendary absent-minded professor who confidently claimed that space and time were not what they seemed. Then he goes on. So I recommend this. I haven't read it, but it looks really fascinating. It has like photos of Einstein and about his life. And so I got that. And then I found a book that for a quarter called Newton and the Counterfeiter, the unknown detective career of the world's greatest scientist. This is on Isaac Newton. It says in 1695, Isaac Newton, already renowned as the greatest mind of his age, made a surprising career change. He left quiet Cambridge, where he had lived for 30 years, and made his earth-shattering discoveries, and moved to London to take up the post of Warden of His Majesty's Mint. Newton was preceded to the city by a genius of another kind, the budding criminal William Chaloner. Thanks to his prenatal pure natural skills as a counterfeiter, Chaloner was rapidly rising in London's highly competitive underworld at a time when organized law enforcement was all but unknown and money in the modern sense was just coming into being. Then he crossed paths with the formidable new Warren in the courts and streets of London amid the tremors of a world being transformed by the ideas of Newton himself had set in motion. The chase was on. My wife said that looked pretty interesting. She might read this one. And then I found 2 books by Joyce Carol Oates, and I was really surprised. I got these. For those who know, I collect Joyce Carol Oates, and I have at least 38 of her books. But I wasn't sure if I had these 2, and when I went to the library thing to catalog them, I didn't have them. The first one is called Assignation to Assign a Nation, Stories by Joyce Carol Oates. Assassination, Stories by Joyce Carol Oates. I didn't have this. The other one by Joyce Carol Oates is a novella called I Locked My Door Myself. I didn't have these 2 Joyce Carol Oates, so I can add that to my Joyce Carol Oates collection. Then I found this little biography on the Kennedys, the family of the Kennedys, by Peter Collier and David Horotwitz. I had David Horowitz's memoir called Radical Son, him going through the 60s and writing about his experiences. But this is, he co-wrote this book with this fellow named Peter Collier and David Horowitz. It kind of like a biographical sketch of the Kennedys leading up to the I think the assassination of Robert Kennedy. And then I found this book, The Americans, 50 Talks on Our Life and Times by Alistair Cooke. When I was growing up, I used to watch America by Alistair Cooke and Masters Theater. He would open up, and I always enjoyed his, like he has a chapter in here, just all kinds of things. Haight-Ashbury drying out. He had just these 50 little talks on life in our times. Little things like Watergate, Act 4. Just all kinds of things. You know, I got it free. And this is a thing I found. It's called Dorothy and Red. It's by Vincent Sheean. He was the first person to win the National Book Award back there in the beginning. But this is a little like biography of Dorothy Thompson and Sinclair Ferguson, his nickname was Red. It's on their marriage and their relationship. They got divorced, but they were married for like 14 years. Dorothy Thompson was a very famous journalist. She was over there in Germany at the rise of Nazism. She wrote all kinds of books. She was even more famous in her time than Sinclair Lewis. But so I found this little thing about their lives. So there's a picture of Sinclair Lewis, and there's a picture of their marriage. So yeah, I got this So on Sinclair Lewis, I have biographies of Sinclair Lewis. I have his novels. He's one of America's. He's one. I don't know if you call him a great writer, but then I found this book, Old Glory: An American Voyage by Jonathan Raban. I had this already right here. I had a paperback. This is his journey down the Mississippi River. This is back in the 70s. It's kind of like a travel memoir, him going down. He starts up here in Minnesota, and he goes down, all the way down to New Orleans. He goes all the way down through Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, and then he goes into Louisiana. And this is writing as he's going down the river. He stops, he meets people. He, like it says here, Raban envelops us totally in his journey, giving us a strong, rich sense of history, of people, of tradition that is resistant to change. He takes us to pig roasts, to church on Sunday, to strange and once elegant hotels, sleazy bars, to a state fair that will linger in our memories, reveals the people he meets along the way, and encounters that are both comic and tragic. Old Glory is the finest book we have yet from the major writer, a book that will be read and reread. I collect the writings of Jonathan Raban. Like I said, I had this book in this paperback edition. So when I saw this for 50 cents, I grabbed it. I had these other books by Jonathan Raban. This is his book, Coasting a Private Voyage. This is his, I think this is his voyage along the coast of England. He is from England, but in the 90s he moved to Seattle, Washington. He is English. This is his going down the coast of England. This is his, like a private voyage, his little travel memoir of that time, going along the coast of, sailing along the coast of England. This is a novel by Jonathan Raban called The Foreign Land. This is a New York Times notable book. And then I have his book, Passage to Jehu, and that's up there in Alaska. Yeah, he goes up, this is going up to, Jonathan Raban set alone in his own boat to sail from his Seattle home to the Alaskan Panhandle. He wanted to decode the many riddles and meanings of the sea in Indian art, mythology, and the journals of Vancouver, in his officers, midshipmen in poetry and painting, and the physics of waves and turbulence. His voyage began as an intellectual adventure, but he soon found himself in deeper and more ominously personal waters than he had planned. So then he wrote this novel, Wax Wings. It the library where I has a used bookstore, Hendrick District Library. This is a withdrawal. This is another novel. And then this is his Jonathan Raban's Badland and American Romance. It's his looking at the plains of Montana and Dakotas, looking at the Great Plains, and his meditations and reflections. He's written a lot of books. I don't have all of his books, but I always look for them at used book sales, thrift stores. So I found this one today, hardback edition. I already had it in paperback. And then I found this big, this Eliot Porter was a very famous photographer of nature. And so you have his photographs in here it's called Eliot Porter American Places. Wallace Stegner and Paige Stegner. Wallace Stegner, I collect his writings. He writes on the American West. He writes novels, biographies, nonfiction. And he writes the text to these nature photos by Eliot Porter. It's really a nice book. I got it for nothing, practically. I think I paid $2 for it. See? It's just a really beautiful book. It has this back cover. He took a lot of pictures of Maine. There's a lot of photos of Maine and text by Wallace Stegner and his wife. It's just a really nice book. Like you have photos of the American West. So I got that. And then I found this book at the Bibles from Mexico, The Art of the Popes, from the Vatican collection. This is all the art in the Vatican. See, it just has all this art that's inside the Vatican, where the Pope has his palace. He has all kinds of things in there. See? So those are the used books I got at the thrift store around the corner, the Bibles from Mexico. All the money that they raise goes to buy Bibles and mission work in Mexico. So I just thought I'd show those to you so I can put them down on the lower level. My wife wants to look at this one, and she wants to look at this book on Isaac Newton and the Counterfeiter. So I'll keep those up here. And I'll take Einstein to the Book Nook Friday. And I like this cover. It's kind of sad though, looking at the absolute devastation on the land there. You know, it's just horrifying when you read about trench warfare during the First World War. And he describes it in gruesome detail in here. Robert Graves. Goodbye to All That, an autobiography by Robert Graves. I collect his writings. He's written all kinds of stuff. So that's it. I will sign off. And like I said, I'm going to the bazaar Friday morning. I might find some books, I might not. Sometimes I go to that. I go every year. And sometimes I might find something. And sometimes I don't. But I can't resist a book sale. And so I'll sign off. And I don't know when I'll download this. Maybe tonight. But hope you're having a good night. Tomorrow is a Thursday, and the week keeps going by. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the new subscribers. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for watching this. And I'll sign off for now. Bye.